Okay, so just loading up the semi-final. So last one that we watched was the upper bracket quarterfinal, FFC versus Ra. Because FFC lost, he got put down to the lower bracket, which is what this game is. So this is FFC versus 400. As 400 came through the lower bracket up to this point. I just skip to the starting point and we'll see what factories they choose first of all. So we're going cloak bots against amphibs. So if I just pause it here, yeah, so that's confirmed in. Okay, so this map is broadly quite flat, but it does have, it's not flat enough for vehicles because to get into certain areas you need to go up some pretty steep slopes, which would just make life miserable for vehicles and hovers and rovers and the works. So it does serve quite well for legged factories, shall we call them. I do like the amphibian choice on this map because there is some water and amphibians gain a really healthy regeneration bonus to their health when they're in puddles and pools, especially deep ones. They're also quite good at steep inclines. I don't know if they're good at going up something that steep, but if they are, that'll give them more avenues. Cloaky bots, not a bad choice by any stretch, however. They got cheaper units than the amphibian factory, and they have longer range units than the amphibian by and large. So for their long range units, they don't really have anything with a decent range until the grizzly. They got medium range units in the boy and the archer, but they're not that good at range compared to the cheap Ronin that they have and the sling from the Cloaky Bot factory. So we'll see if that issue comes into play. I'd expect both players to go for wind primarily. They may want to mix in one or two solar early on just to smooth out the bumps in wind in case they get very unlucky, but in that situation, if you've both gone pure wind, you're both going to have the same energy income from your wind. So again, early archer, then a constructor from the amphibians, and the same 400. He just puts out two raiders, which are cheaper than a single archer, but an archer will be, especially with the hill advantage, that would, I think, defeat almost any amount of glaives. You would need an insane amount, probably in two groups, to run past it, because it can just push them back, do a lot of damage. So like FFC's trying to scout for any very early expansion, so probably doing a quick check here. I would imagine to see if there's some kind of jump jet, or perhaps to see if the enemy's gone for fleas. So for a spider factory of fleas. FFC's now putting in some ducks. Well, he's built a single duck and then make another archer. I don't like ducks unless it's actually in the sea. There you go. That's what happens to glaives when they go up against archers. It's not fair. They just immediately get pushed around and bullied. Okay. One of the spectators in the original game just making a comment, just wondering if that glaive got stuck. Okay. Completely removed. So 400 is slightly slower on the expansion. It's only just now getting his first metal spot outside of his base. FFC's actually completed the first sort of expansion and working on the second with his commander. The second one is really well defended by the archer there, but we could see there that this slope is shallow enough for the commander. So if we just check, although it's red, it's not red enough to stop the commander going up and down. And just check what the case is. So yes, it's too steep here, not too steep here. So it might not be obvious at first glance, but this is a way in. for both players. You just verify it's actually the same for the glaive, so the main cloak unit. Yes, it is, yeah. There we go. That's an example of it. So, on first glance, it might have looked like you only need to defend here and here. You actually also need to worry about that entrance. So I do like the slight terraform for the radar. It just gives it that slightly better view. So we can see this radar. It actually has blind spots here and along there and there, just because the radar range is snagging on these bits of cliff. Whereas this one only has a blind spot really bit there, but otherwise it's seeing everything a bit cleaner. There we go. Got a second radar. So at the moment, expansion-wise, it's evening out. 400 is catching up. So he's still slightly behind. He hasn't got as much control of the map, but a lot of that is because if his glaives run into an archer, they don't win. They die pretty much consistently. I'm not too confident on the Reaver choice myself because the range on it's pretty close to that of an archer's, but an archer can probably, I think an archer can keep it at arm's length. If I can find one. Yeah, I think an archer could, if controlled properly, keep it at arm's length. Knights are a heavy unit, so it's harder for the archer to push them away. Okay, it's a punishment for the expansion without enough units to assist, but let's see what happens with the archer here. Yeah. So, if properly controlled, an archer can keep all of these enemies at bay, bring in another one. So he's just sticking to, okay, he's mixing in some boys. I would say for FFC, he'd be more ideal going for just pure archers at this point, but we're also seeing a difference in economy. So 400 is stalling on metal with the same metal income as FFC, but FFC is stalling on energy. So that's where he hasn't been as just how greedy 400 has been with energy, building solar on the lower planes as well. So he's 25 a geo's worth of energy ahead. And at the moment, wind energy is actually really good for both players. So if FFC is stalling right now, if the wind drops to 0.5, he's going to be in a lot more trouble because he's just wasting metal. He's got metal coming in, which just isn't being used. Okay, let's see. In terms of production, FFC's invested slightly more in production, but its economy is suffering supporting it. 400 only has one caretaker. Let's see if he has another one queued. He doesn't yet. He's very soon going to reach the point where he will need another caretaker. He's just building a lot of laser towers on all of his expansions just to make it costly to raid. FFC hasn't raided. 400 has. 400 has punished a few expansions. He's left some units behind to stop FFC from retaking them easily. But FFC hasn't raided when he has generally had the superior force. Here we go. This is where we start seeing the amphibians' range begin to cause some issues because they don't have anything that can really fight at the same range. So they're likely to have to build heavy laser towers, which he's starting to do. Boy's range isn't bad, but it's an expensive unit when you consider that you can get quite a few. You can get 3 Ronins for the same price, and you know, the boy can't hit 3 Ronins at once. Can only hit 1 unit at a time. You see the knights. You can see how sort of like bulky and how much they don't really give a shit. I don't think it's a good idea because he is just throwing them away and donating metal, but FFC's already having metal problems, and 400, yeah, he's starting to up his production capacity now, like I hoped he would. C has now got enough energy income to really support his 2 caretakers, but it's still quite short on the energy production and metal production, actually. from 400. So although 400 throwing units away here literally just wasted, I think he just wasn't paying enough attention. He's probably looking over here a bit more. His commander is close by. Don't know if he's built a storage. He hasn't built a storage, so that does worry me that his commander's out here. His units, his army is far away, and the commander can't walk back into support range very far. It is upgraded, so he's put metal into it, but this army could kill it if it just ran over there. Okay, yeah, so we're going to get some slow bombs out from FFC, which is the solution to the long range. Throw a slow at them, then run your archers in. Go. Looks like that period's been missed now. He's managed to get enough defences up to secure his commander. And now he can just brute force with the Ronins if he wants to. There you go, that's the slow in action. But by the time the slow came in, it was already out of the HLT's range, so they're going to still take a lot of damage though. Again, an air switch from 400. He did actually secure the Geo. Both players have secured their Geo, but 400 is still quite far ahead. There's not much defence on this one. There is now that some Ronin have been sent across, but for a long time, this army here, it could have killed the commander and gone on to kill the Geo and really hamstring the economy. Yeah, both players are just sort of porking on this line, which is just a term for seeing up enough defence to make it unattractive to attack. I don't like the switch into this many HLTs. Just keep one there and maybe put another one a bit more forwards, because you want to secure this metal spot as well. And then, if you can, get it to overdrive with the geothermal. But I think FFC is just going to wait until he has sufficient air force. FFC has gone for a Grizzly, which will basically bust all of this whole defensive line, but it's going to be killed by the Ravens, I think. I think it's the time when FFC should have considered doing a factory swap as well, and you've got this level of metal income. You need something else to complement your units, to fill in the gaps. Just so both players have roughly half of the map each. FFC actually has slightly more metal spots, but his energy income's hurting him and reducing his overdrive by quite a lot. Yeah, the entire economic lead is almost, yeah, it's entirely through overdrive. Even with Reclaim, it's not enough for FFC. He's, yeah, swapped into producing slings. And he's now sending his Ravens in to kill the commander. So does FFC have storage? No. And from the timer in the game, I think this is going to be game over as soon as he sees enemy has air. I don't have storage. Yeah, that's game. To that point, he can't build a storage and switch into anti-air quick enough, because everything of value that he has, Geo gone, the Grizzly is going to go next. Okay. So we just have a look at the, I think the main thing there was energy income for so much of that, and it was fairly consistently to 400's advantage, which meant he could actually just spend the metal he had. Also, the factory choices and the units that 400 chose hurt him. I don't think he should have gone for boys. I think he should have gone for more archers. And instead of a Grizzly, do a factory switch. Perhaps mix in 1 or 2 scallops just for their DPS, and if you wanted to get in close. And if you want to hit the long range units, use the limpets, that's the slow bomb. And then do a factory swap at around the same time. Another thing that hurts the amphibian factory is that they don't have a cheap thrower unit you can scout. With cloaky bots, it doesn't hurt if you throw away a few glaives, because you can see a few areas with them because there's more than one. But it hurts if you lose an archer, because they're slower, takes them longer, and there's only 1 of them, and they don't do enough damage when they get in. They're not very good against static structures. They've got a very low damage output weapon. Their advantage is they can keep everything far away, and they're good at shredding really weak things like glaives. So they're more of a riot unit. You know, that's the closest that the amphibian factory has. That also just, you know, the metal excess. FFC just wasted so much early on. But FFC did have the chance to win when he had his forces here. He could have gone in, caught the commander, killed the geothermal, which is the exact same as what 400 did to him later on with the air. But he utilised his advantage, killed the enemy's commander and geothermal, but FFC missed that chance. Okay, so just going to end the video here to save this one.